Imagine your $500,000 modern home turning into a literal freezer in just 4 hours. It is minus 20 degrees outside, the power grid is dead, and your smart thermostat has gone dark. Last month, you might have paid a $400 heating bill just to keep your open-concept living room warm. But right now, all that expensive square footage is working against you. To see how fast a modern house fails during an emergency winter survival situation, we are doing something crazy. We are pulling the main electrical breaker of this modern home in the dead of winter. We have a FLIR thermal camera set up to watch the heat bleed out in real time. Our goal is to test a series of off-grid heating methods to see if we can keep this house warm without electricity. At the end of this experiment, we will show you the thermal camera results to see if these passive methods actually save the house from freezing. But while our modern test house is rapidly losing warmth, an Amish family just a few miles away is sitting comfortably in their living room. They do not have a power grid connection. They do not have a gas line. Yet their home remains at a cozy 75 degrees Fahrenheit. They are using smart, passive physics that modern home builders often bypass in standard commercial designs. And their secret is not about hoarding mountains of firewood or buying loud, expensive generators. Instead, they rely on a highly efficient approach to heating that is far more cost-effective than anything we use today. It is a forgotten physical principle hidden right inside the structure of their homes, and to understand how it works, we have to look at the biggest design flaw in your own living room. Look at your beautiful open-concept living room. Those high ceilings and sweeping, connected spaces feel grand in the summer, but during a winter power outage, they become a thermodynamic nightmare. Basic physics dictates that warm air is lighter than cold air. In a massive room, your expensive heat rushes straight to the ceiling. It leaves you shivering on the floor while your light fixtures stay warm. Traditional Amish builders solved this problem generations ago. Instead of fighting physics, they use a strategy called microzoning. They divide and conquer. By closing heavy wooden doors and pulling thick, quilted curtains, they isolate their living space. They divide and conquer. By closing heavy wooden doors and pulling thick, quilted curtains, they isolate their living space. They can instantly shrink their heated living area from 1,500 square feet to just 400. They only heat the exact space they are using. We decided to test this exact strategy in our freezing house. We left the main open-concept living room unmanaged. Within just 30 minutes, the temperature there plummeted to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. But in a smaller adjoining room, we hung heavy blankets over the doorways to seal off the drafts. That tiny, isolated space stayed at a comfortable 70 degrees Fahrenheit. That is an 11-degree difference, achieved with zero electricity. You can easily recreate this emergency winter survival trick in your own home. All you need are heavy wool blankets or thermal curtains hung with simple tension rods. By creating a tight room within a room, you trap your body heat where it actually matters. But keeping the heat inside a small room is only half the battle. You still need a way to make that warm air move exactly where you want it. And the Amish do this without using a single watt of electricity. Using a simple household fixture you probably have spinning above you right now. Think about that rising heat floating right above your head. Every single day, we let it pool uselessly at the ceiling. But we can recycle this lost energy without using a single watt of electricity. If you walk into an Amish home, you might spot a strange metal device sitting on top of their wood stove. It looks like a miniature fan, but there are no wires trailing from it. There is no battery, and it is not plugged into any wall. This is a Stirling engine fan. It runs on a 200-year-old law of physics. The metal base of the fan absorbs the intense heat from the stovetop. Meanwhile, the upper cooling fins remain exposed to the cooler air of the room. This temperature difference causes the air inside a tiny cylinder to expand and contract. This simple cycle pushes a piston, which silently spins the fan blades. The hotter the stove gets, the faster the fan spins. It is a self-regulating, passive air engine. In some traditional communities, you might also see clever, belt-driven ceiling fans. These are often powered by simple, non-electric compressed air lines. But the real magic is not just spinning the fan. It is the direction of the spin. In the winter, they do not use the fan to blow air straight down. That would only create a chilly breeze. Instead, they run the blades slowly in reverse, or clockwise. This clockwise rotation creates a gentle updraft. It draws cold air up from the floor, forcing the trapped hot air at the ceiling to slide down the walls. It recirculates the warmth back into your living space without making you feel a draft. This simple trick can cut your heating needs by up to 15%. You can easily do this in your own modern home today. Just flip the small toggle switch on your ceiling fan motor to the clockwise setting. Run it on the lowest speed. You will gently push that wasted ceiling heat back down to where you are sitting. But what if you do not have a giant wood stove to generate that heat in the first place? This is where some online guides will tell you to use the famous clay pot and candle trick. The internet loves a cheap survival hack. You have probably seen the viral videos claiming you can heat an entire room with a few tea lights and a terracotta flower pot. It looks like a miracle of free energy. So we decided to put this famous setup to the test. We shut ourselves in a freezing room, lit the candles, and turned on a professional FLIR thermal imaging camera. The visual was shocking, but not for the reason you think. On our thermal screen, the clay pot glowed a brilliant, deceptive red. But just a few inches away, the air remained a freezing, icy blue. The physics here are brutally simple. A single tea light candle only produces about 75 to 80 BTUs of heat. To warm even a small room, you need at least 3,000 to 4,000 BTUs. That means you would need to burn more than 40 candles simultaneously. But if you crowd 40 burning candles under a small pot, you create a death trap. The wax melts into a single boiling pool of liquid fuel. It can ignite all at once, triggering a violent flashover fire right inside your living room. Instead of risking a house fire with internet illusions, many traditional Amish builders rely on a real thermodynamic secret. It is called thermal mass. They place heavy, solid bricks or dense, dry stones directly around their wood stoves. These dense materials act like a natural, non-electric battery. They absorb the intense, excess heat while the fire is roaring hot. Then they slowly radiate that stored warmth back into the room for 8 to 10 hours after the fire dies. You can easily replicate this thermal battery concept at home during an emergency. But if you do, you must obey one critical, life-saving rule. Never use wet rocks or stones gathered from a riverbed. These stones often contain tiny, invisible pockets of trapped moisture. When heated, that moisture instantly turns to steam and expands with immense force. The rock can literally detonate like a grenade, showering your room with razor-sharp shrapnel. Instead, use dry, solid quarry stones or standard clay bricks. They will safely hold and release heat for hours. But generating heat and storing it is only half the battle. The real challenge is keeping that precious warmth from escaping through your walls. And how the Amish insulate their homes reveals a massive conflict between modern building codes and ancient survival wisdom. If you search online for cheap insulation hacks, you will find a lot of dangerous advice. Many survival forums suggest stuffing your window frames with old newspapers or dry cardboard. Please do not do this. Taping dry paper near any heat source is a fast track to a devastating house fire. It takes only a single stray spark or an overheated pipe to ignite dry cardboard instantly. You are essentially building a giant matchbox inside your home. To stay warm safely, we can look at how some traditional Amish builders approach insulation. Instead of packing their walls with flammable trash, they rely on a simple rule of thermodynamics. Many Amish homes are built with double-walled structures that leave a deliberate gap of empty space inside. A trapped pocket of still air is actually one of the best natural insulators on Earth. To seal this thermal barrier, some communities use a traditional mixture of clay, mud, and straw. This dense, natural mortar is highly resistant to fire. They pack it tightly into every tiny seam to stop cold drafts from stealing their indoor warmth. It is a safe, time-tested system that requires zero electricity. But what if you live in a modern apartment and cannot rebuild your walls? There is an incredibly cheap, fire-safe alternative you can use today. It relies on that exact same scientific principle of trapped air pockets. All you need is a standard roll of plastic bubble wrap and a spray bottle of water. Simply mist your window glass with water and press the flat side of the bubble wrap against it. It sticks in seconds without any tape, glue, or chemical adhesives. Those tiny plastic bubbles act just like the air gaps in a traditional double wall. This simple method can reduce heat loss through single-pane glass by up to 50%. Best of all, it still lets the natural sunlight pass through to help warm your room. It is an easy, safe way to use passive physics without risking a fire. But even if you manage to trap all that warm air inside, a new danger begins to rise. When you seal a room airtight, you might be trapping something far more deadly than cold air. An invisible, odorless enemy could be silently building up around you right now. When freezing weather hits, our first instinct is to seal up the house. We want to trap as much warm air inside as we can. But in doing so, we might trap a silent killer right along with it. If you run a portable butane heater or a kerosene stove inside a closed bedroom, you are taking a massive risk. When fuel burns in a space with limited oxygen, it cannot burn cleanly. Instead of harmless carbon dioxide, the flame starts producing carbon monoxide. This gas is invisible. It has no smell. It has no taste. You might not cough, and you won't smell smoke. You may simply feel tired, and in the worst cases, you might not wake up. So how do traditional Amish families burn wood or coal all winter without suffocating? They rely on a simple, passive rule of physics. They avoid using unvented heaters inside their living spaces. Amish stoves are typically connected to a dedicated exhaust pipe that leads directly outside. But they do not just vent the bad air out. They also design a pathway for fresh air to come in. As hot air rises up through the chimney, it creates a natural vacuum inside the house. This is known as the chimney effect. It helps create a gentle negative pressure, pulling fresh, oxygen-rich air into the home. This allows toxic gases to be swept up and out, helping the living space stay safe and breathable. If you're forced to use an emergency combustion heater indoors, you must mimic this system. You must keep air moving. Always crack open 2 windows on opposite sides of the room. This small gap is designed to create a constant cross-draft, pulling fresh oxygen in and pushing dangerous fumes out. It is also critical to keep a battery-powered carbon monoxide detector in your room. Now that you know how to keep your air safe, it is time to look at the bigger picture. We can combine these passive physics hacks into an efficient approach to heating that can be far more cost-effective. Let us look at how to build a practical $0 action plan for when the power grid goes dark. After 4 hours of our simulated emergency winter survival test, we brought out the FLIR thermal camera to check the results. The imagery was stark. While the uninsulated parts of the house quickly plummeted toward freezing, our microzone space told a different story. The camera showed a warm, glowing pocket holding steady at 62 degrees Fahrenheit. We managed to preserve a livable sanctuary without using a single watt of grid power. This shows that you may not need a $10,000 backup generator to survive a winter blackout. You can build a highly efficient approach to heating using basic high school physics. It all comes down to a simple 3-step blueprint for off-grid heating. First, shrink your living world. Block off unused rooms with heavy blankets and press bubble wrap onto your window glass. By isolating a single small room, you can drastically cut down the energy needed to stay warm. Second, build a thermal battery. Place dense, dry bricks or heavy stones safely around your indoor heat source to absorb and slowly radiate warmth. You can even heat a smooth soapstone on the stove and slide it under your blankets to help keep your bed warm for hours. Third, keep ventilation in mind. Keeping 2 opposing windows slightly cracked helps create a continuous cross-draft, and always keep a battery-powered carbon monoxide detector nearby to monitor the air. Large energy corporations probably hate these simple, low-tech methods. They rely on us staying dependent on their grid, paying off massive utility bills month after month. But keeping warm in the winter is only half the battle. How do some Amish families keep meat and milk fresh during the blazing hot summer months without electricity? Click on this video right now to discover the fascinating secrets of the Amish dirt fridge. A quick safety reminder, while passive heating methods are highly useful in an emergency, safety must always come first. Never use fuel-burning devices indoors without proper ventilation and a working carbon monoxide detector.